Chapter 2. Okonkwo had just blown out the palm oil lamp and stretched himself on his bamboo bed when he heard the ogene of the town crier piercing the still night air. Gum, 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 boomed the hollow metal. Then the crier gave his message, and at the end of it, beat his instrument again. And this was the message. Every man of Umuofia was asked to gather at the marketplace tomorrow morning. Okonkwo wondered what was amiss, for he knew certainly that something was amiss. He had discerned a clear overtone of tragedy in the crier's voice, and even now he could still hear it as it grew dimmer and dimmer in the distance. The night was very quiet. It was always quiet, except on moonlight nights. Darkness held a vague terror for these people, even the bravest among them. Children were warned not to whistle at night for fear of evil spirits. Dangerous animals became even more sinister and uncanny in the dark. A snake was never called by its name at night because it would hear. It was called a string. And so, on this particular night, as the crier's voice was gradually swallowed up in the distance, silence returned to the world. A vibrant silence made more intense by the universal trill of a million forest insects. On a moonlight night, it would be different. The happy voices of children playing in open fields would then be heard, and perhaps those not so young would be playing in pairs in less open places. And old men and women would remember their youth. As the Igbo say, when the moon is shining, the cripple becomes hungry for a walk. But this particular night was dark and silent. And in all the 9 villages of Umuofia, a town crier with his ogene asked every man to be present tomorrow morning. Okonkwo on his bamboo bed tried to figure out the nature of the emergency. War with a neighboring clan? That seemed the most likely reason. And he was not afraid of war. He was a man of action, a man of war. Unlike his father, he could stand the look of blood. In Umuofia's latest war, he was the one to bring home a human head. That was his 5th head, and he was not an old man yet. On great occasions, such as the funeral of a village celebrity, he drank his palm wine from his first human head. In the morning, the marketplace was full. There must have been about 10,000 men there, all talking in low voices. At last, Ogbuefi Ezugo stood up in the midst of them and bellowed 4 times. Umuofia kwenu! And on each occasion, he faced a different direction and seemed to push the air with a clenched fist. And 10,000 men answered, "Ya!" each time. Then there was perfect silence. Ogbuefi Ezugo was a powerful orator and was always chosen to speak on such occasions. He moved his hands over his white head and stroked his white beard. He then adjusted his cloth, which was passed under his right armpit and tied above his left shoulder. "Umuofia kwenu!" he bellowed a 5th time, and the crowd yelled in answer. And then suddenly, like one possessed, he shot out his left hand and pointed in the direction of Umbano, and said through gleaming white teeth, firmly clenched, "Those sons of wild animals have dared to murder a daughter of Umuofia." He threw his head down and gnashed his teeth, and allowed a murmur of suppressed anger to sweep the crowd. When he began again, the anger on his face was gone. and in its place, a sort of smile hovered, more terrible and more sinister than anger. And in a clear, unemotional voice, he told Umuofia how their daughter had gone to market at Mbano and had been killed. "That woman," said Ezugo, "was the wife of Ogbuefi," and he pointed to a man who sat near him with a bowed head. The crowd then shouted with anger and thirst for blood. Many others spoke, and at the end, it was decided to follow the normal course of action. An ultimatum was immediately dispatched to Mbano, asking them to choose between war on the one hand, and on the other, the offer of a young man and a virgin as compensation. Umuofia was feared by its neighbors. It was powerful in war and in magic, and its priests and medicine men were feared in all the surrounding country. Its most potent war medicine was as old as the clan itself. Nobody knew how old. But on one point, there was general agreement. The active principle in that medicine had been an old woman with one leg. In fact, the medicine itself was called Agadiwanyi, or old woman. It had its shrine in the center of Umuofia, in a cleared spot, and if anybody was so foolhardy as to pass by the shrine after dusk, he was sure to see the old woman hopping about.